Commander Kale stood alone in the dimly lit chamber, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the cramped room. War had taken him deep into enemy territory, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that someone, was hidden here. The faint sound of chains rattling made him freeze. Slowly, he approached a stone pedestal at the center. There, behind a thick glass barrier, was something unexpected, something living. Behind the glass was a girl, not like any alien Kale had encountered before. She sat motionless, her head tilted slightly, silver hair falling softly over her shoulders. Her skin had a glow to it, shimmering faintly in the flickering light. Her violet eyes locked onto his, piercing and intense, yet they carried something strange. Not fear, not hatred, but something softer, almost resigned. Cal's breath caught. He had seen captives before, weak, beaten, full of despair. But this girl, she carried something different. Strength, defiance. "You're human," she whispered, her voice calm, yet carrying a hidden power. "I've heard stories of your kind. Warriors, brash and stubborn, but not like this." Kale frowned, tilting his head slightly. "You're mistaken. I'm here to end this war, like the rest of us. I don't fight for conquest." She studied him for a long moment, as if trying to read him, before speaking again. "You've come too late, human. We've already lost so much. Our home, our freedom. What more can you do to stop it?" Kale didn't have an answer. Every day of this war had been a struggle to keep his own people from falling to the same fate. Yet something about her, something unyielding in her eyes, made him wonder. "What are you?" he asked, his voice softer this time. "A prisoner, a slave." Her expression hardened slightly. "I am a warrior, one of the Starborn, captured during a raid by your enemies. But I'm not just a tool for them. I'm more than what they believe." Cal's brow furrowed. "The Starborn. I've heard stories of your kind, peaceful, powerful, and untouched by this war. Why would they take you?" The girl's lips pressed into a thin line. "Because we have something they want. A weapon. Not a weapon of destruction, but one of life, of peace. My people were the keepers of ancient knowledge, technology that could have saved us all. But now, it's lost, scattered to those who will use it to dominate." Cal's jaw tightened. "And what do they plan to do with you?" "They want to break me, to force me into submission. They believe they can use me to gain access to the secrets of my people's technology. But they'll never succeed. I'll never give them what they seek." Cal's fists clenched at his sides. He didn't understand the full scope of her words, but the weight in her voice told him one thing. She wasn't just some pawn in a war. She had knowledge that could change the balance of power. "Who are you to them, then?" he asked quietly. The girl inhaled deeply and finally stood, though still bound by chains at her wrists. Her defiance was visible now. Every movement carried a grace, a quiet strength that refused to back down. I am the ambassador of peace, a symbol of what my people once were, until this war took everything from us." She looked away for a moment, her eyes flickering with memories. "And now, I am all that remains." Kale stared at her, torn between his orders to complete the mission and the feeling rising inside him. Something he couldn't shake. Sympathy. Anger. A deep need to protect her. "I won't let them take you. You don't deserve this fate," he said softly. Her gaze sharpened as she looked back at him. "You can't save me. This war has already claimed too much. My world, my people, it's all gone. But maybe you could help me save what's left." Cal's brows lifted in surprise. "How? I'm just one soldier. You have something they don't. You fight for something different, something more. I can see it in your eyes. You're not here to conquer, not like the others. You want to end this war, truly." Kale hesitated, unsure of what she meant. Was it possible for one person, one soldier, to truly change the course of a war this vast? "I don't know what I can offer you," he finally said. "But if you trust me, I'll find a way to get you out of here." The girl's lips curled into a faint, cautious smile. "Trust is earned. But if you mean what you say, then you're different from the rest." She turned slightly, tilting her head toward the entrance of the chamber. "If you free me, I'll show you what my people left behind. A chance to end this war, if we can survive long enough to take it back." She met his gaze without hesitation. "I believe that I'm the last one who remembers enough. My people hid these things for centuries, but they also knew. One day, someone would come who could restore it. Someone who would be strong enough to protect what was left." Kel's mind whirled. Could it be possible? Could this girl, this alien, really have the power to unlock something so ancient, so dangerous? And what did that mean for him? "I still don't fully understand," he admitted. "How do we even begin to find these ruins?" She shifted slightly, her eyes scanning the landscape as if she could see beyond the horizon, beyond what was visible. "There are signs, clues that only someone connected to the weapon can recognize. The ruins are scattered across different worlds, hidden in places where only those with the right knowledge can access them. But it's not just about finding the ruins, it's about surviving them. My people built these places to protect themselves from outsiders. Only those with the right purpose, those who carry the ancient energy, can get through." Kale nodded slowly, absorbing the information. "And you think I can help you?" She turned back to him, her gaze sharp but not unkind. "You're different from the others. You have something the others don't. You fight because you believe in something beyond this war. You fight for peace, not conquest. That's the key. Without that, the weapon will be lost forever." Kale was silent for a moment, processing her words. Was it possible? Could they really do this? Find the weapon, stop the enemy, and end the war once and for all. He had come to this world simply to survive another battle, to fulfill his duty. Now, it seemed like so much more was at stake, like he had been drawn here for a purpose he hadn't yet seen clearly. "You're asking a lot," Kale finally said, his voice steady. "You're asking me to believe in something far beyond what I've been trained to fight for. Why trust me at all?" The girl's expression softened slightly, and she reached out, gently touching his arm. "Because I see something in you that few others do. You're not driven by the same hunger for power as the others. You don't fight for yourself, at least, not in the same way. You want more than victory. You want peace. And that is what gives us a chance." Kale hesitated, feeling the warmth of her touch, but something in her eyes made him hesitate. He couldn't fully explain it, but he trusted her words, even though they felt like stepping into unknown territory. "I don't know what this weapon is, or what I'm even getting into," Kale admitted. "But if it means stopping this war, saving your people, and finding a way to bring peace, I'll help you." The girl smiled faintly, a quiet relief washing over her face. "Good, because time is running out." As the fire crackled between them, the weight of their mission settled deeper into both of them. Unknown dangers lay ahead, but one thing was clear. Finding the weapon wasn't just a fight for her people anymore. It was a fight for both their futures. And in that, something began to stir between them. Something more than just hope. A plan. A purpose. And perhaps a shared destiny. The ruins were vast, stretching out before them like a forgotten world. The air was thick with silence, disturbed only by the crunch of their boots on ancient stone. Kale and the girl moved cautiously through the broken pathways, their every step deliberate. The place was a testament to a civilization long lost, a place where peace had once flourished, but was now buried beneath layers of time and war. Kale glanced at the girl, her silver hair catching the dim light, as she studied the ancient symbols etched into the walls. There was a focused intensity in her expression, a kind of connection that Kale couldn't quite comprehend. It was as though the ruins themselves spoke to her, whispered secrets of a past long forgotten. "What are you seeing?" Kale asked softly, his voice barely a whisper. The girl didn't look up right away. She continued tracing her fingers over the markings, her lips moving as if repeating something from memory. These are the last remnants of my people's legacy. They were built to protect knowledge, to preserve it for future generations. But now, they're all that's left. Kale watched her with a quiet curiosity. What knowledge? She finally met his gaze, her eyes gleaming faintly in the dim light. The weapon, the one my people created. It's hidden here, deep within these ruins. Only those connected to the ancient energy can access it. Only those who understand the balance. Kale frowned. And you've seen this weapon? Yes, she said simply. I've seen its potential. It was a gift, once. A tool of creation, not destruction. But that was before it fell into the wrong hands. Before it became a weapon of war. Kale considered her words, then nodded firmly. Let's get you out of here. Kale led the way through the narrow, winding tunnels beneath the outpost. Every step echoed softly against the cold, metallic walls, but his mind was elsewhere, on the girl beside him. Her presence lingered in his thoughts, a constant reminder of something he couldn't quite place. The alien girl, silent, but not submissive, moved gracefully, her silver hair trailing slightly behind her. She didn't need to ask where they were going. She already knew. Their destination lay beyond this complex, deep within the wilds where the war had not yet claimed everything. A place where they could speak openly, where they could begin to unravel what this strange connection between them meant. You trust me? Kale finally broke the silence, glancing sideways at her as they passed through another empty hallway. That's surprising. The girl kept walking, her eyes focused ahead, but a small smile tugged at the corner of her lips. Do you doubt me, human? She asked softly. Or do you doubt yourself? Kale frowned. It's not that. I don't know why I feel different around you. You're not like the others. He stopped for a moment, rubbing the back of his neck, his expression thoughtful. You carry yourself with a strength I've rarely seen. It makes me question everything we're doing. This war, this mission. What if there's more at stake than we've been told? She finally turned to face him, her eyes locked on his. You're not here for conquest. That's clear. But you're fighting a war you didn't start, one that wasn't meant for you. I can sense it in you, your desire for peace, for something beyond survival. That's rare. Most fight for victory. But you fight for something else. Kale took a deep breath, unsure how to respond. There was something about her calmness, her confidence, that unsettled him. She wasn't just a prisoner, or someone to be saved. She was more than that. And she made him feel exposed in a way he hadn't before. You speak with knowledge, Kale finally said, like you've seen more than what I have. The girl tilted her head slightly, her eyes distant. I've seen too much. My people, my world, was once a place of peace, of technology and knowledge. But we were naive. We thought we were safe from the rest of the galaxy. Until they came, the ones who wanted to take what we had. Cal's grip on his weapon tightened slightly. The enemy. She nodded. The ones who don't care about peace. They care only for domination. They're the ones who took me, because they believed I carried the key to our greatest secret. Something my people had hidden for centuries. A weapon. But not a weapon of war. A weapon of creation. A force that could reshape the stars. Cal's eyes widened slightly. A weapon? What kind of weapon? The girl sighed deeply, shaking her head. A weapon that could heal as much as destroy. It was meant to be a gift, not a curse. My people once lived by its laws, preserving harmony, creating abundance. But those who have it now, they seek to control it, to use it to bend worlds to their will. It's why they came for me, why they captured me, and why they continue to fight. Cal's mind raced. The war they fought wasn't just between two factions. It was part of something much larger, something that spanned entire galaxies. And this girl, this alien, carried knowledge that could end the conflict, if she could harness it before the enemy did. Why would they think you could control something like that? Kale asked. The girl's gaze darkened slightly, because I'm one of the last of my kind who still remembers. My people passed their knowledge down through generations. I was trained to unlock the weapon's potential, to safeguard it. But now, I've lost everything. Kale watched her carefully, the weight of her words settling between them. And you want to use this weapon to end the war. I want to use it to restore what's left. My people, the worlds they've lost, even the ones they've taken from you. Peace is not an illusion. It's something we've built, but they've made it into a battleground. If I don't stop them, they'll turn the weapon into something far worse. Kale nodded slowly, his mind already beginning to piece together the mission ahead. And if we find this weapon, this power, how do we stop them from using it? The girl's expression grew serious. We'll need to access the remains of my world, hidden deep within ancient ruins. My people left clues, ways to control the weapon without letting it fall into the wrong hands. But it won't be easy. The enemy has already laid claim to what's left of my home. And if we don't act quickly, they'll use it for their own purposes. Kel's jaw clenched. Then we'll have to fight. But I'll make sure they don't get to it first. The girl stepped closer, her eyes softening slightly. You're different from the soldiers I've met. You don't fight for power. You fight for something far greater. You fight because you believe in something. Kale hesitated, unsure of what to say. There was something about the way she looked at him, like she saw something hidden beneath his armor, beneath his uniform, a truth he hadn't admitted to himself yet. I don't know what I believe in anymore, Kale finally admitted. All I know is that I'm tired of watching everything burn. The girl's fingers brushed lightly against his arm, just enough to be felt, but not forceful. Then we'll find a way. Together. Cal's heart skipped a beat at the touch, though he quickly masked it. He had enough to focus on, saving this girl, unraveling the mystery of the weapon, and ending this war. Yet even as they moved deeper into enemy territory, he couldn't shake the feeling that this journey would lead him somewhere far more dangerous than battle, somewhere where his own heart would be tested. And in that, something else began to grow, something deeper than mere trust. A bond. The night stretched out over the rocky landscape, stars twinkling far above like distant promises. Kale sat beside the fire, watching the girl as she prepared their meager rations. She moved with a quiet grace, her silver hair glowing faintly in the firelight. Despite the tense silence between them, she seemed at ease, as if the world hadn't crumbled around her. Kale couldn't stop thinking about what she had revealed earlier, about the weapon, the power that her people had once possessed. It gnawed at him, a mystery just beyond reach, something so significant it could change the course of the war, or end it entirely. Yet the girl, despite her calm, was careful with her words. She spoke of the weapon as if it were more than just a tool, something ancient, something alive. He couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just technology. It was tied to her people's very existence. So what exactly are we looking for? Kale finally broke the silence, leaning forward slightly. The girl looked up from where she had been sorting supplies. Her violet eyes, though distant, remained sharp. The remnants of my world are scattered across this galaxy. After the invasion, my people sent what they could into hiding. Fragments of their knowledge, pieces of their technology. But most importantly, the knowledge of the weapon itself. It's buried in ruins, deep beneath the surface, left behind by those who believed in peace. Kale frowned. And these ruins, they're protected. She nodded slowly, guarded by automated defenses. My people created systems to protect what they left behind, but they weren't built for war, only for preservation. They will only respond to those who carry the ancient energy, those who are connected to it. Kale studied her carefully. And you can do that. Tap into this ancient energy. The girl exhaled quietly, her fingers tightening on her makeshift tools. I have the ability to access what's left of our knowledge. But it's not something simple. It requires focus, intention, and a deep connection to the weapon itself. My people once used it to sustain harmony across their world, but now Now it's something far more fragile. I can only hope the remnants haven't been completely corrupted. Kale leaned back, his eyes narrowing. And the enemy? What do they want with this weapon? She sighed, a tired look settling over her features. They don't want peace. They want to control it, harness its power to dominate. My world was peaceful, yes, but it wasn't weak. My people thrived because they lived in balance. The weapon was meant to serve, not destroy. The enemy, though, they see it as a tool for conquest. They want to bend it to their will, use it to claim everything they can't simply take by force. Kale clenched his fists slightly. And they'll stop at nothing to get it. Exactly, she whispered. They'll destroy anything in their path. They already believe I hold the key to unlocking the weapon's potential. If they get to me, they'll use it to reshape everything. Turn entire worlds into their empire. Kale stared at the fire, lost in thought. This war, it's bigger than I thought. It's not just about territory or resources. It's about control, of power, of knowledge, of entire civilizations. The girl leaned forward slightly, her gaze steady. That's why we have to find it first. My people left clues, encrypted maps, messages hidden within the ruins themselves, but only those connected to the ancient energy can decipher them. Kale looked at her, his eyes narrowing. And you believe you're the only one who can do this. Kale shivered slightly as the weight of her words sank in. You really believe we can still control it? That it hasn't been completely corrupted? She hesitated for a moment before nodding slowly. It's dangerous, but it's not beyond redemption. My people built safeguards, ancient rituals, algorithms encoded into the very fabric of these ruins. We just need to follow them, to unlock what remains. They continued through the ruins, passing through corridors lined with shattered statues and crumbling arches. The air felt alive, as if the place itself remembered its past. And Kel could sense it. Memories clung to the stones, a silent history playing out in echoes only they could hear. How did they fall? Kale finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The girl paused, her fingers resting against a broken pillar. My people believed in peace. They thought that knowledge and understanding would lead to harmony. But the rest of the galaxy didn't share that vision. They grew greedy, consumed by the desire for control. And when my people refused to yield, they came for us. Kale absorbed her words, feeling the weight of a history he couldn't fully grasp. And what happened after they were taken? After you were captured? The girl turned away, her expression darkening. I was the last of my kind to be imprisoned. They thought they had broken us, stripped us of our will, our knowledge. But they didn't realize that our power was more than just technology. It was a part of who we were, a legacy passed down through generations. And even now, in captivity, the connection remains. Kale stepped closer, his voice a gentle whisper. And that's why they believe you hold the key to the weapon. She nodded slowly, her gaze drifting down a narrow passageway. They see me as a threat, not just because of what I know, but because of what I can do. They don't understand what they've unleashed. This weapon, it isn't meant for them. It never was. Kale fell silent for a moment, reflecting on her words. So what do? We find the weapon, but how do we use it? How do we stop them from destroying everything? We don't use it, she said quietly. Not in the way they expect. We'll use it to heal, to restore balance. That's the key. The weapon can destroy, but it can also create. It's about understanding how to wield it without succumbing to its dark potential. Kale frowned, thinking it over. And you believe we can succeed? The girl turned to him, her eyes shining with conviction. We have to. If we fail, they'll turn it into a weapon of annihilation, a force that will consume everything in its path. But if we succeed, we can bring peace back. We can undo the damage they've caused. Cal's gaze softened as he considered her words. There was a fire in her, a strength he hadn't seen in anyone else. It was more than just her ability to understand the weapon. It was her determination, her belief in something beyond war, beyond conquest. "I'll do whatever it takes," Kale said firmly. "For you, for your people, for peace." The girl's lips curled into a faint smile. "Thank you. But this won't be easy. The ruins have their own defenses, mechanisms designed to protect the weapon from those who don't understand its true purpose. We'll face dangers beyond what we've seen before." Kale tightened his grip on his weapon, his expression steeled with resolve. "Then we'll face them together." The ruins seemed to pulse with an ancient energy as they continued their journey deeper into the heart of history. The air grew colder, the shadows darker, but their determination never wavered. They were bound by a shared purpose, a mission that extended beyond the present, into the very foundation of time. And with each step, the truth became clearer. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to restore a legacy, a peace that stretched across generations, a legacy that had been violated, but could still be reclaimed. The corridor stretched out ahead, dimly lit by faint, flickering lights embedded into the stone walls. The ruins seemed endless, alive in their silence, filled with layers of history and forgotten knowledge. Kale and the girl moved cautiously, each step measured, each sound muted. Shadows flickered at the edges of their vision, distant movements that stirred the air but vanished before they could be certain they weren't just figments of the old, crumbling walls. Kale glanced sideways at the girl, noting how easily she navigated the maze-like depths. Her silver hair gleamed faintly in the dim light, and her movements were fluid, as though the ruins themselves were speaking to her, leading her toward something unseen. But even in her calm, there was an edge, a quiet tension beneath her cool exterior. "What do you expect to find deeper down?" Kale asked softly, his voice barely a whisper, as though speaking too loudly might awaken something they weren't ready to confront. The girl didn't answer right away. Instead, she paused, tilting her head slightly as if listening. Her fingers brushed against the ancient carvings on the wall, reading something Kale couldn't see. "The heart of this place. It holds what we seek, the key to understanding the weapon. My people left it behind, hidden within the ruins, but only those connected to the ancient energy can access it. Only those who carry its truth." Kale frowned. "And you think this place, these ruins, won't fight back, that it won't defend itself?" She turned to him, her eyes sharp but thoughtful. "These ruins are a reflection of my people's wisdom. They're designed to protect what they've built, not to harm. But that protection comes with trials, tests. Only those who are meant to find the truth can make it through." Kale shifted his stance, uneasy. "Trials? What kind of tests?" The girl's expression grew serious. "The ruins were designed to separate those who seek knowledge for the right reasons from those who seek power. It will test our resolve, our will, and our understanding. If we're strong enough, if we're pure enough in purpose, we'll find the truth. But if we waver, if we allow fear or greed to cloud our minds, the weapon will reject us." Kale let out a breath, staring deeper into the shadows that stretched ahead. He could feel it now, something stirring beneath the surface, something ancient and dangerous. The ruins were alive, their presence a silent warning. It wasn't just a place of memory, it was a place of trial. And the deeper they went, the harder it would become to stay focused. "Are you ready for this?" Kale asked quietly, his eyes meeting hers. The girl's lips curved into a faint, determined smile. "I have no choice. My people's legacy depends on it. I was trained for this. I've prepared my whole life to unlock the weapon and restore balance. I'll do whatever it takes." Kale's jaw clenched. "Then we face it together." She nodded, and they moved forward again, deeper into the labyrinth. The air grew colder, the silence heavier. Time seemed to stretch as they walked, every shadow growing more insistent, more oppressive. Kale's pulse quickened. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, eyes hidden in the dark, unseen watchers waiting for the right moment to strike. And then, just as they turned the corner, it happened. A low, guttural growl echoed through the corridor, a sound that seemed to ripple across the walls, vibrating with menace. Kel's weapon was in his hand in an instant, his muscles tense, eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. But there was nothing. Just the dark, just the quiet. The girl, however, didn't flinch. She stood still, her fingers reaching toward the ground as though sensing something beyond sight. "It's them," she whispered, her voice calm but strained. "The guardians of the ruins. Ancient creatures, born from the echoes of the past. They're here to test us, to see if we're worthy." Kale gritted his teeth. And what happens if they decide we're not? The girl's eyes darkened slightly. "Then we'll have to prove ourselves. They'll challenge us, push us to the edge. But we can't let fear take hold. We must stay focused. This is part of the trial, part of what we must overcome to reach the heart of the ruins." The growling sound grew louder, reverberating through the corridor, until Cal could feel the vibration in his chest. From the shadows, dark shapes began to materialize, creatures cloaked in darkness, their eyes glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. They moved silently, almost as though they didn't need to walk. They simply merged with the shadows themselves. "They're drawing closer," Kale muttered, gripping his weapon tighter. "What do we do?" The girl stepped forward, her stance firm but controlled. "We have to stand our ground. These creatures will test us, our strength, our resolve, but they won't harm us unless we allow fear to overwhelm us." Kel's mind raced. How could they fight something they couldn't even see? How could they defend themselves from something that seemed to exist within the very fabric of the ruins? He glanced around, trying to pinpoint their position, but it was useless. The creatures moved too quickly, blending too well with the shadows. "We don't have time for this," Kel growled, ready to strike out at anything that moved. "We need to keep moving." The girl raised a hand, stopping him before he could act. "We must endure. Endurance is the key. These trials aren't meant to be defeated through force alone. They're meant to test our resolve. We must face them with clarity, without fear, without doubt." Kale gritted his teeth, forcing himself to lower his weapon. The creatures circled them now, almost imperceptibly. They moved slowly, deliberately, their glowing eyes locked onto Kale and the girl. They were waiting, watching. "What do you see?" Kale asked, his voice barely a whisper. Kale hesitated. Trust. That word had never come easily, not after years of fighting alone. But something about the girl, the way she moved, the calm in her eyes, told him she wasn't leading him into danger recklessly. She believed in this. She believed in the mission. "All right," Kale finally said. "I'll follow your lead." The girl nodded, her expression firm. She closed her eyes for a moment, taking in a deep breath. Her fingers traced a faint pattern in the air, as though drawing invisible lines of energy. Kel watched, feeling the strange hum in the air, like something ancient was beginning to stir. A faint shimmer of light flickered at her fingertips. The creatures seemed to grow uneasy, their glowing eyes flickering slightly. They moved cautiously now, no longer circling with aggression, but with hesitation. It was as though the energy they sensed, hidden deep within the girl, made them question their actions. "Now," she whispered, "we must show them that we come with clarity, that we seek not to destroy, but to restore." Kale gripped his weapon tighter, but forced himself to stand still. The creatures were closing in again, moving slower now, but still watching, still waiting. Kel could feel their attention, feel the weight of their gaze. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to focus on the girl, on the strange connection between her and the ruins. "Show them your purpose," Kale muttered, though he wasn't sure who he was speaking to, her or himself. The girl's eyes snapped open, her gaze sharp and focused. "Together, we'll move through this, one step at a time." The creatures paused once again, their growls softening into a low rumble. The tension in the air seemed to ease slightly, though they didn't fully back away. They were watching, waiting to see if this moment was a fleeting act or something more genuine. Kale realized something then. This wasn't just a test of strength or endurance. It was a test of purpose, a chance to prove they weren't just seekers of power, but those who carried the energy for the right reasons. Only by showing clarity, showing the right intention, would they be able to move forward. Together, they would have to walk the line between fear and resolve, between surrender and purpose. And if they succeeded, if they could overcome this trial, then maybe, just maybe, they would find the path to the weapon and restore what had been lost. But the danger was far from over. The shadows were still thick, and the guardians of the ruins watched intently, as though waiting for the moment they would falter. And as long as the creatures lingered, the true test had only just begun. The air inside the deepest chamber of the ruins was heavy, thick with ancient energy. Kale and the girl had finally reached what seemed to be the heart of the vast, forgotten structure. The once grand chamber now lay in ruin, pillars cracked and broken. The ceiling far above letting in streams of light that barely pierced the gloom. Ancient symbols covered the walls, faintly glowing, as though breathing in the lingering energy of a time long past. Kale scanned the room carefully, his weapon at the ready. The creatures that had once tested them had faded into the shadows, leaving them alone, but not unguarded. This place still held power, tremendous power, and it pulsed around them, ancient and untamed. The girl stepped forward, her silver hair flowing softly as she moved. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the same light that bathed the chamber. She approached a circular pedestal at the center of the room, where a large crystal sat, dull now but still shimmering faintly, as though waiting to be activated. "This is it," she said quietly, her voice filled with awe and determination. "The heart of the ruins, the last known resting place of the weapon. This crystal, it holds the remnants of the energy my people once wielded. And it's the key to unlocking what's left." Kale stepped closer, his gaze shifting between the girl and the crystal. "And this weapon, what exactly is it supposed to do?" The girl turned to him, her expression grave. "It's more than a weapon. It's a force of creation and destruction. My people built it to maintain balance, capable of both healing and annihilation. But when it fell into the wrong hands, it was twisted into something else, something dangerous." Kale frowned. "So we're supposed to unlock it, and what? Control it?" The girl shook her head slowly. "No, we're here to understand it, to harness its energy for balance, to restore what's been broken. But it's not something we can simply wield. We must become part of it, feel its energy, not dominate it. Only through harmony will we access what remains." Kale crossed his arms, absorbing her words. "And how do we do that? What do we need to unlock this thing?" The girl's eyes shifted back to the pedestal. She began tracing her fingers along the ancient symbols etched into the stone, her movements slow and deliberate. "First, we need to connect with the energy here, the same energy that the ruins were built to protect. It's still buried deep, hidden beneath layers of time and decay. My people left behind clues, rituals encoded into the very stone." She paused, turning back to Kale. "But the energy isn't dormant. It responds to those who carry purpose, to those who understand. It's alive." Kale watched her carefully. "And you think I can help you with this?" The girl nodded without hesitation. "Yes. Together, we'll unlock it. You carry something too, an energy, a will to protect. That's why you're here. That's why we've come this far." Kale felt a flicker of doubt. He wasn't sure if he understood what she meant. "What energy are you talking about?" "I'm just a soldier. I'm used to fighting. Not this." The girl stepped closer, placing her hand gently on his arm. Her touch was soft but firm, as if grounding him. "It's not about power. It's about purpose. You've survived battles, not because of strength alone, but because you carry something deeper, something that's been awakened. You fought for something beyond yourself, something worth protecting." Kale frowned but allowed her words to sink in. Maybe she was right. Maybe there was more to this than he realized. Maybe the weapon wasn't just a tool, it was a test. A test of their resolve, of their ability to see beyond simple strength. The girl's voice grew softer, more focused. Now we must align ourselves with the energy here. We must let it guide us. Not fear it, not resist it. Kale took a breath, steeling himself. And what do we do next? The girl gestured toward the crystal. We begin with this. Place your hands on the crystal. It's the key to unlocking the energy. But don't think of it as something to control. Think of it as something we're part of, a part of the ruins, part of the weapon's purpose. Kale approached the pedestal slowly, his mind racing. He didn't understand all of this, but something inside him told him to trust her, to trust what they were doing. He placed his hands gently on the cool surface of the crystal, feeling its faint pulse beneath his fingers, an energy that seemed to thrum softly, responding to his touch. The girl stepped beside him, her hands just above his, creating a slow connection between them. Her eyes closed, and she began whispering softly in an ancient language, her words blending with the hum of the crystal. The chamber seemed to come alive, symbols glowing brighter now, faint lines of energy connecting them to the crystal, to the very foundation of the ruins. The energy pulsed, and Cal could feel it. Something deep, something ancient, something alive. It wasn't just power. It was something more, something tied to the history of the ruins, to the legacy of the girl's people. Suddenly, the air around them shimmered, a ripple of energy spreading outward. The crystal began to crackle faintly, and Cal could see images, visions flickering in the edges of his vision. Shadows, battles, moments long past, memories tied to this place, tied to the weapon. The girl's voice became clearer now, more intense. Focus on the connection. Feel it. Feel what's left. It's not just energy. It's part of something greater, part of balance. Cal's eyes locked on hers, and for the first time, he understood. This wasn't about taking control. It was about becoming part of something, becoming one with the ruins, with the weapon. Together, they could awaken what had been left behind. But just as the energy reached its peak, a sudden ripple surged through the crystal, a sharp vibration that shook the pedestal. Kale stumbled back, startled, as the chamber seemed to quake slightly. "Something's resisting us," the girl whispered, her eyes narrowing. "They know we're here. They're trying to block us." Kale glanced around, his weapon at the ready once more. The shadows in the corners of the room shifted, dark forms beginning to materialize once again. The guardians of the ruins, awakened once more. They circled slowly, eyes glowing with renewed menace. "They'll try to stop us," the girl said, her voice firm. "But we must finish this before it's too late." Kale gritted his teeth, his resolve hardening. "Then we'll stand together. We won't let them stop us now." The energy in the chamber surged again, brighter this time, filling the space, illuminating everything around them. And as it did, Kale realized something. This wasn't just about the weapon. This was about restoring what had been lost, reclaiming what had been stolen. This was their only chance to put an end to the war, to bring balance back to the galaxy. And they wouldn't let anything stand in their way.